In front of me, I have three of the latest X100 cameras, the brand new X100VI, the X100V, and X100F. Today, we're gonna talk about some of the differences between these cameras, some things that I noticed shooting with all of them, and which one you should ultimately buy. Now the reason why I'm making this video is because it is really hard to get your hands on the X100VI right now. And for a lot of you, maybe those who don't know about previous models and want to buy this camera because of everything you've seen online, I want to shed some light on the older models that might still be a good option for you. You might even be able to score an X100F like I did last year for less than $700. Also, I have a ton of Fujifilm videos on the channel, so make sure to check those out after this one. The X100F, the X100V, and X100VI all share the same body style. APS-C size sensor, ability to create film recipes, ability to shoot in RAW, the same battery, the same single UHS 1 SD card slot, and the same fixed 23mm f2 35mm equivalent focal length. That being said, there have been some tweaks. They all have the same focal length, but the lens received an upgrade since the X100F, which was known to be a little bit softer. This one is much sharper now, even when shooting wide open at f2. The X100V and the 6 also have a tilt-out LCD screen, while the F has a fixed LCD screen, which can be annoying when shooting lower or higher up. And although the LCD stayed the same from the X100V to the X100VI, Fujifilm improved its tilting abilities to give us 15 extra degrees of downward tilt. Now for the biggest differences, the X100VI uses Fujifilm's latest 40 megapixel X-Trans5 sensor and processor that you'll find in cameras like the X-T5. For your maximum shutter speed, you can shoot up to 1/180 thousandths on the electronic shutter, way more than the 1/30 thousandths that you can shoot with the X100F and X100V. It has a 4-stop internal ND filter and is much more video capable, being able to shoot up to 6K 30. It now has IBIS, it can shoot in H.265, and uses the same hybrid viewfinder/rangefinder as the X100V. However, it is roughly 40 grams heavier than both of them and 3mm thicker to accommodate the IBIS system. If you want to know more about the X100VI, I made a full video on it. You can check it out up here. The X100V uses Fujifilm's 26 megapixel X-Trans4 sensor and processor, has a 4-stop ND filter, and is able to shoot up to 4K 30. It doesn't have IBIS and it only shoots in H.264. The X100F uses Fujifilm's 24 megapixel X-Trans3 sensor, has a 3-stop internal ND filter, not 4, and is only capable of shooting up to 1080p for video. It also doesn't have IBIS, it has a micro USB port instead of USB-C, and although it has still the same hybrid viewfinder/rangefinder, it is an older one, with its resolution only 2.3 million dots, where the viewfinders on the X100V and X100VI come in at 3.6 million dots. But I don't want to go into all the little details and read off the spec sheet, so I'll tell you what the biggest differences are in my opinion, and my thoughts after shooting with all three. The biggest difference most people will notice for sure is the autofocusing. This was the one thing that I noticed right away, and it was different with each camera. The autofocusing on the X100F is slow. Except mine's gonna be harder to focus. Okay, bear with me because it ain't focusing. Hold on, still not focusing. For the photos that I take with it, I don't need to rely on the speed of its autofocusing, but if you do, this is definitely a problem and it's not the most reliable camera. The autofocus on the X100V was significantly better than the X100F's. It was much faster, quick to detect your subject and lock on, super responsive, and I had no complaints whatsoever. The X100VI, on the other hand, utilizes AI to help with autofocusing, and it does a great job at tracking different subjects. However, for everyday photos like I was taking, I didn't notice a huge difference from the X100V's autofocus. However, I did find that moving the focus point with the joystick was much faster and more responsive on the X100VI. One thing that I do really like about the X100F though is that it has a D-pad. I don't know why they decided to remove it on the X100V and the X100VI. It just gave us 5 extra buttons that we can customize or get to a certain setting faster without going through our menus. I also found the lens on the X100F not as soft as people made it out to be. Sure, compared side by side to a photo taken on the other two cameras, you can tell a difference in sharpness, but on its own, it looks fine. And when you stop down to f2.8 or higher, you can hardly tell a difference. Now let's talk about film recipes. I found it much better, but also more enjoyable to create recipes with the X100V and X100VI. Because they use the newer sensors and processors, they not only have some extra film simulations, but they also have some extra settings when building out your film recipes. For example, they have a clarity setting, but also a color chrome and a color chrome FX blue setting, which just allows you to make so many more film recipes than the X100F. And my other gripe with the X100F when creating film recipes is that you can't name your recipes. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but when you've created 8 different film recipes and you delete the wrong one, it can get pretty annoying. That being said, here are my overall thoughts on each of these cameras. The X100F is a great camera if you're shooting street photography or random photos of everyday things. This is the camera that I use, the one that I currently own, and I will continue to shoot with this because I enjoy it. If you can find a used X100F for under $1,000, it's worth buying. If you're someone who wants a quick, responsive autofocusing system, would hate to have a fixed LCD because the X100F has a fixed LCD, and the main reason why you're buying this camera is because of its film recipes, I think you're going to enjoy the X100V a lot more than the X100F. It's a much bigger and much more significant upgrade from the F. In fact, the X100V is probably the best option of them all. If you can get your hands on it for less than what it retailed at 4 years ago and care more about the photo features than video, I think it's the best option for you. But that's only if you can find it used for a good price. If you're gonna pay full price for the V, you might as well get the new one at retail and wait a bit. Really, the biggest difference between the V and the 6 is that we finally have IBIS, a higher resolution sensor, and improved video features. If all of these things are important to you and you're going to be using the camera for video as well, definitely get the X100VI. That being said, if you came here because the hype of film recipes and film simulations, all Fujifilm cameras are capable of doing this. So if you're not fully committed to getting a fixed 35mm equivalent focal length, there are many alternatives like the X-T5 where you can use different lenses. I actually made 2 videos on the X-T5, you can check them out up here. I hope that helps. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, check out my other Fujifilm videos, and I'll see you in the next one.